Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are fit and fine. So dear students, as you know that we are once again revising all the chapters and discussing the questions which have come in last 10 years question papers. So let us continue. Okay. So according to the syllabus of your revision test, we are discussing. So as of now, your revision test have been discussed and same is being done in class 2. Now we are going to discuss the syllabus of the chapters which will be coming in revision test 3.2. Okay. So let's begin. Chapter 3, Two Stories About Flying by Liam O. Flaherty, written by Liam O. Flaherty. His first flight, part 1, introduction. The imaginary story conveys the message that one learns by taking courage and not by sitting idle. A young seagull is fed lovingly by his parents, but when the time comes for him to fly, he feels himself afraid. At last, his mother hits upon a plan by persuading him with food in her beak, and the seagull finally learns how to fly. So, this is what in the story. Now, let us go through the summary of this chapter. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. His two brothers and sister had already flown away. When he wanted to fly, he could not do so. He was very much afraid of flying. When his brothers and sister flew, he failed to gather the courage to fly. He was really very sad. His father and mother came to him. They asked him to fly. They even rebuked him, scolded him. They threatened if he did not fly, he would die of hunger there. But he could not move. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, no one had come near him. He had watched his parents and brothers and sisters flying. His parents had been perfecting his brothers and sister how to dive for fish. They called him to fly, but he could not. The sun was rising. It was getting very hot. He felt the heat. He had not eaten for long. He had found a dried piece of fish tail, but it was not enough. There was not even a single piece of food anywhere for him. He had gone forward and backward on the ledge, but he couldn't fly. He wanted to reach his parents. There was a deep sea below. The ridge was high. The seagull closed his eyes, standing on one leg. He had the other leg hidden under his wing. He pretended to sleep. He thought that his parents didn't take notice of him. However, mother was looking at him. He saw her tearing a piece of fish at her feet. He was mad to see the food. He gave out a sound to get it. His mother replied in a sound and looked at him. She picked a piece of fish. She flew across to him with it. He learned out tapping the rock with his feet. His mother flew across, trying to get nearer to him. The seagull had the food within the reach of his beak, but he could not get at it. The seagull waited for a moment in surprise. He wondered why his mother did not come nearer. He was so mad with hunger that he dived at the fish and fell outwards with a scream and downwards into space. His mother had swooped upwards as he passed beneath her. He heard the swish of her wings, then a great fear caught him. His heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted for a moment. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outwards. He felt the wing rushing against his beast feathers. It rushed under his stomach and against his wings. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring slowly downwards and upwards. He was no longer afraid. The seagull gave out a joyous scream. He soared higher, calling ga ga ga. His mother gave out ga kol ah. Then his mother flew over him, screaming. Then he saw his brothers and sister flying around him. They were roaring and diving. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly. He commended himself to dive and soar. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it. He saw a vast green sea beneath him. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on the green surface of water ahead of him. They were calling him to do the same thing. He dropped his leg to stand on the green sea, but his legs sank into it. He cried with fear. He tried to rise again, flapping his wings, but he was tired and weak with hunger. He could not rise. His feet sank into the green sea. His belly touched it. But he sank no further. He was floating on it. Around him was his family, crying and praising him. It was offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. So this way, dear students, he made his first flight. Okay. Now, second part of this chapter, Black Aeroplane. Introduction. This is a mysterious story. The writer was flying his old Dakota aeroplane. Suddenly, he was caught in a big cloud, and his compass, radio, and other instruments failed. There was not much fuel in his plane. Suddenly, he saw a black aeroplane near him. The pilot in the plane guided him. As a result, he was able to land safely. But he was greatly surprised when the woman at control center told him that there had been no other plane except the writer's Dakota on the sky that night. Now, let us go through the summary. The author says that he was flying an aeroplane at 1 o'clock at night. The moon was coming up in the east behind him. The stars were shining in the sky, in the clearest sky above him. He was flying his old Dakota aeroplane over France back to England. He was dreaming of his holiday. He was looking forward to being with his family. He decided to call Paris Control. He then radioed to it. He told it that he was on his way to England. Paris Control duly acknowledged. It advised him to turn 12 degrees west. He duly turned to that direction. Everything was going well. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind him. Then he saw the storm clouds. They looked like black mountains in front of him. He knew he could not fly up and over them. He decided to go back to Paris. But he also wanted to get home. So he took the risk and flew into the storm. He could see nothing outside his plane. Everything was black. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. He looked at the compass. It was gone. He tried to contact Paris Control. He was lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds, he saw another aeroplane. It had no lights on its wings. He could see it flying next to him in the storm. He was glad to see another person. He was signaling to follow him. The author thought he was trying to help him, but he followed him. He flew for half an hour. He had fuel to last for 5 or 10 minutes. He began to feel frightened. Then he started to go down. Suddenly, he was on the runway. He looked for his friend in the black aeroplane. He wanted to thank him, but the sky was empty. He went into the control tower. He asked a woman where he was. She looked at him strangely and then she laughed. She told that there was no other plane except that of his. The author was wonderstruck. He wondered what had helped him to arrive there. He was without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in his tank. He was the pilot of the strange black aeroplane flying in the storm without lights. So it's all about it. Now let us go through questions which have been asked in last 10 years. Then we will discuss the poem. Okay. His first flight. Read the following extract carefully and answer the questions that follow. Question number 1. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings. He became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Why was the young seagull afraid? Question number 1. Question number 2. What did the young seagull feel about his wings? Question number C. Pick out the words from the passage which mean the verge. D. Pick out the word from the passage which means a narrow flat piece of rock that sticks out from a cliff. So answers are also there. Why was the young seagull afraid? The young seagull was afraid of flying over the sea. You can add one more line. He was thinking that his wings would never support. So what did the young seagull feel about his wings? So the young seagull felt that his wings would never support him. The word is brink. Pick out the word from the passage which means the same as word. The verse, it is brink. So pick out the word from the passage which means a narrow flat piece of rock that sticks out from a cliff. So that is ledge. Second, comprehension. Comprehension, just I am showing, you can take the screenshot and can write down the answers. Okay, you can also mark in your book. Later you can match the answers. These are the extract based questions. So I am showing you the extract based questions. The fourth one is also asked in CBSE exam 2016. Okay. So take the screenshot or you may pause the video and practice the questions which are being shown on the screen. Now let us discuss the extract based questions from part 2. Okay, so take the screenshot and must write their answers. These questions have already been asked in the examination, so you must practice them. Okay? After practice, you can also match your answers. Now, let us discuss short answer type questions and their answers. Why did the seagull not go with the rest of his family? So, the young seagull, did not go with the rest of his family because he was afraid to fly. How did Seagull's parents try to make him fly? So Seagull's parents tried everything to make him fly. They screamed, scolded, and threatened to let him starve on the ledge unless he flew away. Third one. What had the young seagull watched his parents doing the day before? So, the day before, the young seagull had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting in the art of flying and teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. Question number 4. What was the young seagull's mother doing before him? So the young seagull's mother was standing on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. She tore a piece of fish that lay at her feet. Then she scraped each side of her beak on the rock. Question number 5. When did the young seagull get over his fear of flying over the sea? So the seagull was afraid of flying over the sea because he thought that he would be drawn. Okay? His family decided to teach him a lesson. They left him unattended. The mother tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet. Now and then, in his front, since the seagull was hungry too much, he was compelled to attempt his first flight in order to get food. He was successful. This is when he got over his fear flying over the sea. Question number 6. Describe the young seagull's expression when he saw his mother with food. The young seagull uttered a joyful scream because he thought that his mother was bringing food for him. He tried to come nearer to her as she flew across. Next, why did the young seagull feel miserable on the ledge? The young seagull felt very miserable on the ledge as he was alone and his family had already flown away. He was feeling very hungry and had nothing to eat. His condition was worsening because he could not even dive for fish. Next, how did the young seagull and his family celebrate his first flight? So, when the young seagull started flying and got over his fear, his family screamed around him out of joy. They praised him and offered him scraps of dogfish out of delight as he made a successful attempt. Describe the first flight of the young seagull. The young seagull dived at the fish due to hunger and fell outwards and downwards into space. He thought of getting drowned, but his wings spread outwards automatically. He moved downwards and outwards and landed safely on the sea and floated on it without any fear. Now, questions from part 2, the black aeroplane. Describe author's feeling while he was flying his plane back to England. So the author was very excited. The author was very excited while he was flying his aeroplane back to England because he wanted to spend his holiday with his family at home. How much fuel was there in the aeroplane when the writer started flying? There was sufficient fuel in the tanks of the aeroplane to reach England safely when the writer started flying. What risk did the writer take while flying? Why? The writer decided to risk to fly through the storm clouds because he wanted to enjoy his holiday with his family back in England. What did the writer feel inside the clouds? So, when the writer entered the clouds, it became impossible to see outside the aeroplane. The aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air, and all the instruments like compass, etc., stopped working due to the weather conditions. Question number 5. What did the writer see inside the black clouds? The writer saw a black aeroplane which had no lights on its wings. The writer could see the face of the pilot in the black clouds who was signaling him follow to get out of the storm. Question number 6. Why did the writer follow the pilot of another aeroplane? So the writer followed another aeroplane because he had lost the way in the storm and was unable to see anything. The pilot of another aeroplane was helping him to get out of the storm and land safely. Question number 7. Why did the woman in control room get shocked when the writer asked about another aeroplane? So the woman in the control room was shocked when the writer asked about another aeroplane because there was no such plane flying in the sky that night as she saw on the radar. Why did the writer want to meet the pilot of another black aeroplane? So the writer wanted to meet the pilot of another black aeroplane to thank him as he had saved the life of the writer by helping him out from the storm. So, dear student, it's all about today's class. In my next class, I will discuss extra question answers of these two chapters and the remaining chapter of revision test 3 part 2. Thank you for watching this video. See you tomorrow.